Hello, I'm the Greek Geek because I'm 50% Greek and 100% a geek. It has been a fantastic couple of years for Spider-Man fans. We've had Spider-Man Homecoming, which came out a few years ago, and I maintain that is a very good Spider-Man movie. We've had Into the Spider-Verse that came out last year, and now we have Spider-Man Far From Home. And as you could probably tell by my enthusiasm, this movie's pretty good. Before I dive into the movie, I just wanted to say if you're interested in superheroes like this movie, fantasy movies, science fiction and monster movies and that kind of thing, I cover all those kind of things on my channel, and if that sounds like you'd be interested in that, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Now with that annoying bit out of the way, let's get into it.
Europe doesn't really need a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Peter Parker wants to take a break from being a superhero and goes on a school trip to Europe with his friends and teachers, and in the process gets abducted by Nick Fury to help him fight some elemental monsters, and he meets a man named Quentin Beck, aka Mysterio.
You're a very difficult person to contact, Spider-Man.
Tom Holland, I think, is great as Spider-Man and Peter Parker. He kind of gets both aspects of the character very well. He plays a good Peter Parker and he plays a good Spider-Man. Zendaya is a good Mary Jane. I wasn't that sold on her in the first movie, but she seems more kind of Mary Jane-ish in this movie. She does have her own kind of quirk. She kind of reminds me of Daria from that cartoon in the 90s. Where she's just being all edgy and stuff.
And I'm so defended that I actively work to make people dislike me so I won't feel bad when they do. Can I go now?
I really like the chemistry between the two characters. It feels organic and flows naturally and doesn't feel forced, so that's a good thing.
MJ, I
am Spider-Man.
No, of course I'm not.
I mean, it's kind of obvious.
Jake Gyllenhaal as Quentin Beck / Mysterio was really good casting. He knocks it out of the park. He does a really good job as this character. But to be honest, at the start of the movie, I thought his character was a bit bland and not that interesting, but it's not until some other stuff gets revealed that he becomes a lot more interesting. And I really liked all the side characters as well. Not that I had a problem with them in previous movies, but most of the classmates and the teachers especially, they get some good lines in and have some funny bits of dialogue, and I really like them going through all these scenarios when they're in Europe, and just their little quips and stuff that they say is really entertaining.
Who is that guy?
He's like Iron Man and Thor rolled into one.
He's no Spider-Man.
What is it with you and Spider-Man?
What, he looks out for the neighborhood, has a dope suit, and I really respect him. Sup, dickwad?
So this movie just feels like a road trip kind of movie. It catches that feel really good, and in typical Marvel fashion, they put a lot of comedy into their movies, and they do in this, but it doesn't undercut certain emotional moments that happen in the movie, which has been a really bad thing that happened in a lot of previous Marvel movies. I really liked as well how the whole world is kind of grieving over the death of Iron Man, and they're trying to come to terms with what happened to him, and everyone's talking about who's going to take his place. And everyone's hinting that they want Spider-Man to fill the role of Iron Man, but he doesn't really feel that he can live up to Iron Man's legacy. They're really big shoes to fill. And Peter also has a hard time taking a break from being a hero. He can't seem to escape it, and he has to learn that he has to let go of certain things, and there's some things he's not going to be able to do while he's a superhero.
Everywhere I go, I see his face. I just really miss him.
Yeah, I miss him too.
So going on from Avengers Endgame, we're not really sure if the Avengers are kind of disassembled, because they're not helping out with this threat. With the elemental threat, no one comes in to help or anything. They kind of address this. They talk about how the other Avengers aren't available, like Captain Marvel not being available, Thor being off-world as Guardians of the Galaxy. So some members of the Avengers aren't available to help, but what about some other ones like Scarlet Witch, Ant-Man, the Wasp, the Hulk, fucking Hawkeye. Just get Hawkeye or Ronan, whatever he's going by now. Get somebody. It's getting to a point now where they have a solo movie and there's no other Avengers in the movie to help out. You think, well, what are they doing? Is the Avengers disassembled? We don't know. Or they just don't care. They don't see the elementals that big of a threat.
Gotta be someone else you can use. What about Thor?
Off-world.
Captain Marvel? Unavailable.
Honestly, I think this is some of the best action that I've seen in an MCU movie for quite a while, especially a lot of the more recent movies. The action and choreography hasn't really impressed me that much, but I really liked the fight scenes in this movie with Spider-Man zipping around and showing what his other suits can do is really interesting to see. And the elementals have some cool-ish powers, I guess. Watching Spider-Man team up with Mysterio in the movie was cool to watch, and seeing what Mysterio can do, that was all very interesting. They had the Spider-Man theme inserted a couple of times in the movie, but there wasn't any other themes that really stuck out to me, except that one theme when Mysterio was introduced fighting Hydro Man, or the water elemental, whatever you want to call him. There was that one theme that stuck out to me. If I can find it, I'll put a link in the description below. But I do have a complaint about the beams that Mysterio fires out of his hands. In the trailers, they make this kind of cool sounding, squealing kind of sound. I can't explain it very well.
You don't want any part of this.
But they sounded cool, and then in the movie they've just replaced it with just like generic kind of laser beam kind of sounds, and I was a bit disappointed at that, honestly. Not a big issue. Oh my god. Hey, you remember in Spider-Man Homecoming how Spider-Man's suit was just unnecessarily CGI, and even when he was just kind of standing around and talking or sitting and not really doing much and it's just CGI? Yeah, there's some more of that in this movie. Not as much, I think, but why? Just have him in a suit. What's so hard about that? It just takes me out when I can tell he's wearing a CGI suit and he's just standing there talking. So things that I liked the cast and characters, obviously. The movie is funny. The action is great. Mysterio is great. I liked all the side characters as well. And this movie works as just a fun road trip movie with superheroes involved. So thumbs up. There weren't many things I didn't like about the movie, like the unnecessary CGI suit when you didn't really need it. Kind of took me out of the movie a couple of times. Mysterio's laser beams not making the same sounds as in the trailer disappointed me. I'm really stretching for things I didn't like. But one thing I didn't really go into before is that a lot of the movie relied on Peter Parker getting this MacGuffin, and it's not really explained how people know where this MacGuffin is, and I'll get more into that in the spoiler video. But yeah, not much to hate about this movie, at least to me. But I would like to know if you enjoyed this movie as well. So please let me know in the comments down below if you liked this movie or if you disliked it, and give your reasons. I want to know why. As always, thank you for watching me ramble on about a movie for a few minutes. I do appreciate it. Thank you again, and I'll catch you next time.